Thank you. Problem solved. How's
okay, great.
Okay, about a 30-second lag. And so that's good because some of the stuff I was rambling on about, I was trying to fix things. So it worked out good. Thank you for calling in. And I will kind of recap now. Thank you so much.
Great. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you. Well, I just got a lovely call letting me know I forgot to unmute my microphone, which is probably a good thing. Y'all didn't want to hear all that nonsense anyway. So you didn't get to hear the intro music. That's okay. It's okay. We'll maybe try to edit it in later. But thanks for tuning in today. The purpose for today, I'm basically starting off a brand new series. This will be a third scheduled day of the week. It's not going to be on Sundays. I just decided to fill in Sunday today because Rabbi Singer was not available for today. He won't be back until next week. So rather than to miss today altogether, figured it'd be a good pilot for the testimony. It's going to be basically called Totally Testimonial Tuesdays. And, anybody can come give their testimony. If you live local and want to come here, you can, or if you want to do it via Skype, like I do with Rabbi Singer, that's fine. But ultimately, we're just going to, I know testimonies are important, I actually hearing testimonies myself of others throughout my life really were the stepping stones that kind of nudged me in certain directions. And so I think this is going to be a very critical series for so many people out there who don't know what to do. They don't know how to handle where they came from. Again, this series will be on Tuesdays and will air at 8 p.m. When we first start off, it will probably not be every week because I want to make sure we have enough testimonies to air. And also I need to make sure my schedule will actually fit this. Right now we're going 2 days a week already, and we're projecting to go 4 days a week. So, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. So, with all that said, I'll go ahead and kind of move on into my testimony. So this is a little awkward for me because I'm not used to being the one doing the talk, and I usually do the question asking. So if any of you want to rescue me, feel free to call in. Numbers at the bottom of your screen. So, okay, well, I'm going to kind of start off back when I was about 5 because that's really about as early as my memory can remember. I know that my biological father and biological mother were married for long enough time to have 4 children. And I was the third. I have 2 older brothers and 1 younger sister. And at this point, after my younger sister was born, they decided to go their separate ways. And so rather than fighting over child support and such, they decided to just split the pot. My dad got the 2 oldest boys, and my mom got me and my younger sister. And so we went. My mom gets remarried. She marries a guy who in this stage of our lives was very physically and mentally abusive, not just to me and my sister, but also to my mom as well. And it was a very, very tough life at that time because I was very young. And I'll spare you the horror stories of all the different types of things that went on. But let's see, we've already got a caller. Let me see. Hello, welcome to Tanach Talk. This is William.
Hi, William. David from Ocean Parkway. You don't have to put me on air, but in your testimony, yes. I would love to hear what made you disenchanted with Christianity.
Very good. So it crackled a little bit. So what enticed me about Christianity?
What made you disenchanted?
Oh, gotcha.
What made you questioning the
very good.
Essence of Christianity?
I will do that. I will cover the Messianic from the Christian to the Messianic until now. And
no. With the respect, you personally in your life, and your friends, your church,
right?
Your father, not really the Messianic movement. In your mind.
Well, I actually went into the Messianic movement before I actually came out altogether. That's why I kind of threw that in there. So I was Messianic for well over 3.5 years. So,
all right. Well, then you have a double explanation. What made you realize Messianic is wrong also?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. David, thank you.
Do me a favor. Next time Rabbi Tovia comes on next week.
Yes.
I want to hear your radio voice when you say, "Welcome to Sunday Super." I want to hear that voice.
Super Tovia Sunday.
You did that a couple of weeks ago. I went crazy.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Shalom, David. Thank you so much. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, will do. I will definitely cover that, David. So going back, we after being adopted, my stepdad was very abusive, like I mentioned, and just a lot of cruel different ways. Things that really just immediate jail time, you would say. And so as I started getting older, I felt a little bit of relief, sadly, because my mother had two other children who I love, Jerry and Klaus. They're my stepdad's kids, and and my mom. So we're half, so not step. And I say sadly because they started absorbing some of that abuse as well. And part of me was more, as I was getting older, I was kind of more thinking it might be better if it was just me per se, but really it is what it is. It happened. And so as time went on and years passed, I finally got to the point to where I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I called an uncle of mine who lived about 2.5 hours from where we were at, or maybe 2 hours. It wasn't really that far. And he came and actually got me. I ran away from home at age 16 in the middle of the night and ran up to a hospital, which was the only place I knew that I was afraid that he was definitely going to, wake up because I was too noisy and look for me. And I ran with all my life and ran to the hospital and made a phone call. My uncle came to pick me up, and then he connected me with my biological father. So at this stage in the game, after a few months, after a few weeks of living with my uncle, I eventually got connected back with my real dad for the first time since I was 5. My stepdad would not allow us to communicate with them. He was, very controlling and just didn't want us to have any part of their lives at all. So, and so I went to live with my real dad. And my real dad, I didn't know, but at the time he was a pastor. He was not a Messianic rabbi, so to speak. He was kind of holding a pastoral position. And in my heritage, my grandfather was a Baptist preacher. My great grandfather, my Uncle John, is an evangelist, and so we've got all these biblical leaders, if you will, in my bloodline, and that did trigger something in me to want to study more and more. And but my dad, when I stayed with him just for a few short months, I realized that he wasn't your typical Christian pastor. He was what we call a messianic leader. But now, 20 however many years later, he's more holding the position of a rabbi, but it's more of a self-appointed. There was no authoritative appointment there. However, so 16, went from an ungodly household into a household where there was just like forcing church down your throat. Every day of the week we were in church, and I was just like, I was going nuts. I didn't know what to do. So I left home there. Actually, I stayed with them for a while, and then got married at a young age, and had my son Brandon when I was 19. Let me see if I can pull his wedding picture up. It's wonderful. Him and his wife just got married recently. And anyway, this is my oldest son, Brandon, and his wife, Mozzie. And so I was very, very delighted to be able to attend their wedding because of the fact that I'm going to go in and out. Okay, David is calling back. Let me see. David, hello, sir. I got you on caller ID now.
Yeah, good.
Yes,
did
sir.
you ever hear of Rabbi Asher Wade?
No, sir. I have not heard of Rabbi Asher Wade.
Okay. He was a pastor for 30 years. His wife's whole entire lineage for hundreds of years, priests and pastors and all that. I don't know the proper. He went through Kristallnacht, and when all his congregation kept on asking him questions, he couldn't get answers from his superior. He went on a quest. Try to YouTube ASHER Wade.
Can you send me that in an email or a message somehow?
Wait, let me get a pen and find out.
Okay.
How should I send it to you? I don't belong to Facebook.
That's okay. Just send me an email, william@tanachtalk.com.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you, David. Shalom. Okay, so I'm probably going to be waving in and out of time, back and forth. So you have to forgive me. As I begin to talk, I'll realize I forgot something and I have to go back. And so basically, my son, the reason that's kind of hitting a touchy moment there too, because my son and I have been kind of separated for about 5 years now, and just recently have been invited back into their lives, to which I'm very grateful to Hashem for. And so anyway, run away at 16, got married when I was 18, and had Brandon in 91. And moving forward from there, wound up getting divorced about 3 years into our relationship. At this point in time where that divorce thing came in, I was trying to reconnect with God again. For the first time in a while, because I kind of got pushed away from the whole God scene because of my dad, my biological father. I just thought that he was a little bit off the deep end doing this whole Messianic thing. And but I did have that period of time where I did connect with God, and I wanted to take him seriously. And so I started reading my Bible, and I would go to church from time to time, but it wasn't really, really serious. It was kind of serious, but not totally. So as time moves on, I just got married again, got into a bad marriage, got stabbed in the shoulder with a piece of glass. Yeah. If you want to know more about that, send me an email or put me on the spot on the air. So anyway, so that relationship didn't last long. I was in and out of relationships trying to find home. And so I left there because of the physical abuse from that situation. I decided I was just going to leave Texas altogether. And so I went to Nashville. I had people tell me to go to Nashville because I like to sing country music, and said, you need to go to Nashville. And so I did. I got on this construction crew. I didn't plan on going to Nashville. It just sort of ended that way. I got on this construction crew where they were doing remodeling Walmarts. And the very first place they hit was Tennessee, right around the Nashville area. So it was kind of like a hand delivery. Felt like Jonah in a way. I know that's not good, but hey, it was kind of like that though, because I was thinking about it, and then it's like I just got delivered there without having to go through the effort. So anyway, I did the Nashville music scene for a while, got a couple jobs singing at local nightclubs, and then I met the beautiful lady that you see in the background right now. We met there. Definitely not the typical church type relationship. They said never go to a nightclub or something to meet your spouse, but I'll tell you what, Hashem used this situation. So my wife and I, we got married, and we stayed in Tennessee. During this time, right after she moved in together, and we got real serious about the relationship, I decided I really wanted to put my energy back into God again. Now, the part that I left out that I probably should have put in there was before I went to Tennessee, there was about 4 or 5 years where I was a part of a church in Leander, Texas, called Trinity Christian Center. I was part of a ministry team. We did a lot of stuff like the power team does, going around breaking bricks. I actually broke my hand breaking some flaming bricks like some retard. And but anyway, so I was pretty serious about it then, but then had a bad situation take place there that kind of pushed me off again. I was tired. I was ready to go. That's when I moved to Tennessee and did the music scene, but I was only in it for a short time, because after Chrissy and I began to cultivate a relationship, I decided it was time to get out of that scene altogether and get back in the church, because I was like, I wanted to make sure that this was going to be as flourish as much as possible. And at the time, that's what I knew. So we started going to church. We were a member of a church in Murfreesboro, a big church, 10,000 members. Started off around 3. Now they're like 10 or 12,000, but that's really irrelevant. But we went there, started volunteering. I really went every time the door was open, because I started getting hungry. I wanted to learn this stuff. I went to the home cell groups, asking questions and learning and absorbing and offering my time, running the soundboards at the youth rallies, and just anywhere I could get my foot in. That's where I was at. And as time progressed from there, I started communicating with my dad, and I realized that a lot of the stuff that I was learning, because this was at a point where I wasn't just your casual Christian. I actually stopped listening to music on the radio altogether. I stopped listening to the Christian stations and just went for straight Bible teachings, like nonstop from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed. I was on my own business, so I could listen to the radio throughout the day. That's all I would listen to, these different preachers preaching about their understanding of the Bible. And the more I listened to them, the more I saw the conflicting views. And after about 3 years of doing that, just listening over and over and over again, all these different preaches, I probably sat through thousands of sermons in a 3-year period. And I finally decided at that time, it was all just creating all these different types of noise going on in the background. And so I was just praying, asked God to give me just a hunger for his word. I just didn't want to, I wanted to be able to read, because I'm not a reader. Even today, I'm not necessarily a page turner, but I do go through like tons of audio books and things. So anyway, to make a long story short, I bought a podcast, a Bible iPod. And rather than kind of going through the New Testament, I decided to start back in Genesis. And so I started studying Genesis and just, reading it, really, not really studying it, and going through it. And I literally went through the Torah so many times in that first year. It was unbelievable. And by doing so, I started seeing all these problems in Christian theology. Not just the Torah, but also going through the prophets and such. And I started seeing all these issues. And so I began to write down my questions. And I finally decided that my dad, who was this Messianic rabbi, so to speak, in Austin, was a Fruit Loop. Because he was, I was told people like that had fallen from grace. They're not trusting in the blood of JC anymore, and that they're heathens, basically. And so I stayed away from him. But as I started studying more and more, the stuff didn't make sense. So I called and I would ask him a question or two, and he would tell me answers that were more fitting with what I perceived of what I saw in the New Testament than what I was taught at the church. And those conversations were very short at first, and a couple months had passed by. I would ask him a few more questions, and next thing you know, he's answering all these questions that make a whole lot more sense than it did in Christianity. And so basically, I left the church at that point, and basically didn't join. There was no sign-up sheet. There was no public announcement. It was just, you just follow this trail. And so I followed this Messianic bunny trail and moved to Texas. When I first moved back to Texas, my brother invited me back here. He wanted me to come to work for him, so I did. And my brother's a Christian. He's not Messianic. He's very, very, very much anti. This is a good place to insert a very important point. This is for a lot of people who don't know this. Just because a church or a group of people say they're pro-Israel does not mean they're pro-Jewish. My brother seems to be pro-Israel, likes the idea of it all, but when it comes down to Judaism, he's very, very much almost a hater. I remember sitting in their cell groups in their church, and he was leading the cell group, and they would mention something about Judaism, and then they would just all kind of shrug their shoulders, go, like the plague just hit them or something. It was really nerve-wracking for me. And so when we moved to Texas, we started going to Celebration Church in Georgetown. It's another great big church. Is where my brother went, so I went there. But right when we first started going there, is like we were there for one weekend. And then it was at that point where I decided I wasn't going to keep the Sunday pattern anymore. I was going to try to keep the Sabbath day, keep it on Saturday. Well, that week they sent out an email, and that email said that they were no longer holding Saturday services. And so again, it was almost like a slam door at that time. And so I didn't have a choice. I was like, well, I'm not going to go there on Sundays. And if I'm going to go anywhere, the only person that I know around is my dad, who, like I said, he's got this congregation in Austin. So I called him up, and he was very delighted. And so I started going there. And then we had it was a nice family reunion at first, because he was excited that one of his sons actually didn't think he was a nut case because of what he was believing in. And so my wife and I went there. We went there to study. We went there to learn. He put me at an appointed place to teach for like pretty much right away. I ran their cameras and was trying to help them with their webcasting and things. And anyway, shortly thereafter, there was some issues there with my dad and his group. It's not on the same topic line. It's something. The issues that we had were different. They were character issues, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. If somebody really wants to know more about that, just call in and I'll tell you what I can. So anyway, so after a little while, my wife and I just stopped going there altogether, and we moved out to where we're at now here in Kingsland, and we started our own home group here. And so we've got a real small group here. It's a micro group. It's one of those, I call it the microchip. We've only got 4 or 5 people who come. Those same 4 or 5 people usually come on Hebrew class night on Thursdays. I teach Hebrew. What Hebrew I do know, I teach it on Thursday nights, and they come. My wife cooks meals for everybody, and we have a good time. But ultimately, as time progressed in the Messianic movement, but let me back up a little bit now. David from Ocean Park had asked me, what was it that caused me to start questioning Christianity? And what it was about Christianity was I've got a list of probably 100 New Testament scripture reference. I say scriptures, 100 New Testament references. That's actually over 100 at this point. I'm pretty sure I could probably look them up and just rattle a bunch of them off to you. If you want the list, send me an email and I'll email you the list. Where there's the law of God is actually spoken of throughout the New Testament. And so, David, this again is just specifically to answer your question. Most people use Matthew 5 to say, well, Jesus fulfilled the law. And but the context of that whole area they're quoting from really has nothing to do with him not keeping it. He's literally saying that I didn't come for that. So the way the church tries to get you to understand that or to believe that is, do not think that I came to annul or to destroy the law or the prophets. I did not come to destroy, but to fulfill. But the way they say to read that is, I didn't come to fulfill. I didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets, but I came to destroy it. You don't have to do it anymore. So it just doesn't make any sense. And there's just so many places. The context of the New Testament really does not paint the picture that the church teaches. And a lot of people say that, well, some interpret it this way, some interpret it this way. And that's okay. No, it's not, because there's only one message really that was supposed to be taught in the New Testament. The message that Jesus taught was never to not keep the law of God. But there was a lot of learning that I had to do even at that point. After I started writing down this list of all the scripture references, and I would question them on Facebook, and then people couldn't answer them. They would say, "Oh yeah, but this scripture says," I'm like, no, forget that one. What does this one say? Let's deal with this one first. And so as it went on, it really, it says you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Well, once if a person really believes that their house is on fire, they are going to move. They're going to get up and leave the house. They're not going to sit there. And so the truth happens that way in our hearts. When we're exposed to a truth, knowledge of something, it forces you to change if you really believe it. And I believed what I was studying, and that actually led me, that kind of pushed me right out of the church. And immediately I started catching all kinds of flack from all my friends, and calling me a heretic and saying I was falling from grace, and I was a wolf trying to steal away the sheep and all this other stuff. And that wasn't the case. I was just simply trying to teach others what I had seen for myself. So as I'm studying the New Testament, more so, and now I'm going to Zion in Austin, and as I'm studying it more and more, I've got a friend of mine who he's probably more like I guess you could say he's more like a brother, because I've known him for a long time. His name is Lon. He'll be giving his testimony on here, I believe next weekend, I think. This will actually also be on Sunday, but it'll be after Rabbi Singer's broadcast. I think we're going to broadcast him at 3 p.m. So y'all can tune in to listen to his story. His story is very unique in the fact that he wasn't born into Christianity. He was actually born into the Messianic movement, which is really, for me, it's kind of like I can't even wrap my head around that. So, I mean, I can, but I guess it's going to be an interesting story. So anyway, so he and I reconnected at some point. Well, he moved away. He actually got bar mitzvahed at my dad's shul. He moved away shortly after and went to Israel. He moved to Israel. He got a visa. He went studied mechanical, electrical engineering or something like that in Israel, and was forced to learn Hebrew like right away. I think he had to literally learned it within a year. I think it was more like 3 to 6 months. He was cramming it so hard, he just became practically fluent in that short of time. And so he just went to school there, and we would communicate from time to time. And I didn't know right away that he wasn't Messianic anymore. I just assumed that he was. And then after talking to him a few times, he would say something subtle to me. He would never just, come at me with something. He would just say something subtle to me. And he mentioned Rabbi Tovia Singer, and he mentioned Rabbi Michael Skovak. And of course I didn't know who they were. And then when I found out who they were, I was like, okay, thanks, Lon. It was nice talking to you. Have a good day. And so I kind of kept that name as far back in the back of my mind as I could get it, those names, because I really wasn't open to it. I was afraid to hear someone else's explanation of what they believe. And the truth of the matter is if you're so shaky in what you believe that you can't handle questioning about it, then what is it that you're actually believing in? I mean, if something is sound, if something is true, I hear people all the time saying, well, whatever you do, don't sit down and talk with them because they might convince you. Well, how can I possibly convince you unless what I'm giving you is truth? If I was lying to you, you can find that out, and you can find the truth out by just searching it out. But at the end of the day, if you are afraid to hear what someone else has got to say, and you're not open-minded about it, then that is a blind faith. It's something that the blind faith thing, by the way, it's not in your New Testament. It is the concept of it is. But if you look at the examples where Jesus taught regarding what faith was, it was about understanding. It wasn't about believing in something you had no idea how it was going to come to pass. Like the woman, who's getting the crumbs off the floor, he says, great is your understanding, and the man who was healed, was it the centurion? I can't remember which one it was now. And he said, man, your understanding about this topic is amazing. He says, truly, I've not seen anybody with such great faith in all of Israel. It wasn't because he believed in something he didn't understand. It's because he totally understood authority. And so with that said, the whole believing in something just based on what you were taught is nonsense. It's not smart. It's not intellectually honest. And so, and I had to come to terms with that. So I finally decided I was going to start praying differently. And so here we are, we're in Kingsland, Texas. I've got this Messianic little shul now, a little tiny place. And for the first year and a half, 2 years, I'm just doing things like my dad did. I would say whatever, I learned a lot of Hebrew, and I would say a lot of the Hebrew prayers that he would pray. I've never been to a synagogue at this point, so I was just doing the only thing that I knew to do, which was to follow the footsteps of my dad. And so it was a good stepping stone for me, though. I can't slam it completely because I learned a lot through that path. So here we are in Kingsland with a year and a half, holding these ceremonies week after week on Shabbat, praying, using Yeshua in a lot of prayers, trying to point out Yeshua or Jesus in the Tanach as we go along. And the more I tried to do it, the more problematic it became. And then finally, at the end of the first year, we were coming up to Passover, and I realized that I needed to kind of prepare something because people were coming over for Pesach. And so I started studying up on it. And I immediately came into a bunch of questions, and I was so confused. It was that baffling. And I'm very well educated in the Bible as far as things go as a blanket, mainly, the New Testament. And cause I just started studying the Old Testament at this point. And, so I couldn't figure out how to handle this. And so I went on Facebook and I checked with a few people. There's one guy on there, Sandy Bruce. We were friends for a long time. He's got quite a following. anyway, so I messaged him about a question one year before we even became friends, and he gave me an answer. There's a real fast, rattled it off like, oh yeah, this is it. It wasn't voice. I'm kind of overemphasizing. And he just rattled this thing off, and I was like, oh, thank you. And then I went to read it, and I'm like, that didn't explain anything. That didn't tell me anything different than I already knew, and it doesn't make sense. And so I kind of went to somewhere else. I actually sent a message to Brad Scott, I think it was, or one of the other Messianic leaders. If I got your name wrong, dude, please, I'm sorry, it was a mistake. I've got, I don't remember all the names of other people I've been dealing with over the years. So I sent out more messages, and they would send me these articles or tell me to go to this YouTube video, and I would watch them, and it was the same old nonsense over and over and over again, trying to draw a picture that will connect Jesus with every holiday in the Old Testament, every holy day. And the only way you can do that is to twist it so badly that they don't make sense. I mean, and so David from Ocean Park, what led me out of Christianity was seeing the Torah actually taught in the New Testament to keep it. What led me out of the Messianic movement was the Passover problem. Ira Michelson and Rod Bryant invited me on Israel National Radio, and I gave just a little bit of a testimony on, I think that's what they called it, the Passover problem, to set me free. And as I'm sitting here studying this whole Passover thing, trying to create something to give these people to try to connect Jesus in this whole scene, all I'm hitting is brick walls everywhere, because now I've got a comprehension that I didn't have before, and I can't go and say, and Jesus was blah, 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 knowing in my mind that that's not the case, because I just found out that wasn't what happened. And so here I am on Passover, and I decided to skip the entire thing. So we just did it and had a meal, and just kind of, we followed the Seder the best we could and just moved on, and I ignored it. So the next year comes around again, Passover. It always came about Passover, because without a Passover sacrifice, without Jesus being a Passover sacrifice, you New Testament believers have no atonement for your sin whatsoever. And what I'm going to tell you today is that is the case. There was no Passover sacrifice for sin. There never has been. The situation with Jesus had nothing to do. Yet it happened on Passover according to the New Testament, but Passover itself has nothing to do with sin. It never did. It has to do with remembering the Exodus of Egypt and God redeeming his people that way. And so the next year came around, I'm studying Passover again, and I was like, I'm going with the memories I had from the year before. And so I start writing all this stuff down, and I make this list of things that I want to try to connect. And as I go over this list and actually look up these items specifically in the verses that they actually applied to, there was nothing there. I had to actually make up something to fit in here. And what did I make up? I made up bits and pieces of stories that I've heard about Jesus being part of these celebrations from times past. And so, but as I was putting these in my mind, I wouldn't even make it to paper. I couldn't put them down anymore. And so again, I passed it up a second time. Finally, the third Passover came around, which was 2 years ago, actually, which was a year and a month or so ago. That was the one that broke me. Yeah, that was the Passover that led. Best way to say it is it led me out of Egypt, if you want to say that. I was determined at this point, after talking with so many Messianic leaders, and not having anything intelligible to say whatsoever, other than the same old stuff that you're taught, that I was taught, that they teach in church. Nothing made sense, and we're expected to believe these things because they said so, because it came from a Messianic leader. Sid Roth, oh my gosh, I used to love this guy, and now my opinion about him is completely diminished. I won't even go into the details of how I feel about these teachers out here. I will tell you this. I've been accused of Lashon Hara, the speaking evil about someone, because we had an incident when we finally made it public that we left the Messianic movement. We were no longer New Testament believers. This one particular guy, whom I mentioned earlier, came to my house and tried to reason with me according to his profession. He wanted to sit down and talk with me, and so he sat down at the table, and Sandy began to tell me things. And as he started telling me things, I was trying to stop him. I was like, wait. Rather than telling me stuff, if you came to help me out, then, logic would suggest that I need to ask you questions and then you answer them for me. But he wouldn't let me do that. He kept rambling on and on and on about Jesus is the Messiah and all this other stuff. And I just let him go. And I tried to disengage him several times. And finally I just interrupted. And I said, listen, if we're going to do this, you need to let me ask the questions and then you give me your answer for it. But he still did not let me do that. So several more minutes passed by, and the more he saw that I was not learning anything new, I'm going to put it that way specifically because I was totally open to it. Even today, and make this very well known, I am totally open to anything new. Okay, don't call me closed-minded or blind when I know more about the text than you do. Okay, the blind ones are the ones who don't know these things. Those are the ones who are blind. If you know a pit is in front of you, that means your knowledge, it's there. You know it's there. That gives you sight. That does not make you blind. You walk around it. It's the ones who don't know that hole's there. Those are the ones that fall into it. So next time you feel like you want to call somebody blind who is more educated in the scriptures than you, really think about the logic and how stupid that sounds. So here we go. I'm trying to ask questions, and I'm trying to ask specific questions because they're the same questions I posted to him several years ago on Facebook and these other leaders, and he wouldn't let me. And finally, when I did post say my question, he wouldn't answer it. He got madder and madder. Eventually got up and started yelling at me. He started pointing his finger at me in my face. My wife is about 12 feet away in the kitchen with my son, David, standing next to her. I finally asked him to leave politely and quietly while he's getting all bent out of shape. And as he's leaving, and he's pointing his finger literally in my face, yelling at me. And he tells me this phrase, and I'll never forget it. He says, if this were in the days of Phinehas, he said, I would take a spear and drive it through you and your wife. My wife is standing there at the counter looking, and my son is like terrified. I guess my daughter was out in the backyard or something. I'm not sure. But this is what happens. And then so I immediately posted something up. I said, you know what, this is getting out of hand. I said, I just got threatened in my house by, this person. And man, I got so much flack from people saying, oh, you shouldn't be speaking evil. I'm like, you know what, if you know that there is a wild man on the loose, you're not speaking evil when you're warning people about him. If other people are in danger from this type of activity, that's not Lashon Hara. If you know there's a thief in your neighborhood, you saw him do something with your own eyes, and you don't tell somebody about, you're endangering their property. You're endangering their family. This is not a go out and tattletale moment that I'm trying to broadcast. But my point is, this situation was very critical. This man had basically come into my home and figuratively speaking, threatened me and my wife. Not that, and I know for a fact he would have never done that. That's not the point. The point is he had so much anger and hate in his eyes when he said this. And I'm thinking, you know what? If this is how the Messianic movement is, I don't want any part of it anyway. And I have had more hate coming through Messianics than I ever experienced with Christians. Christians are just sweethearts compared to the Messianic movement people that I've experienced. They typically immediately block you on Facebook. They call you heretic. I got added to the blacklist or the red list or whatever it was by some website that had me and Rabbi Singer and Spiritual Babies and all these other listed on here. Blacklisted, I think is what they called it. And I was honored at that point because I didn't want to be a part of them. And so the more I experienced my life trying to come out of this Messianic movement, that it seemed to be really tough because at first this is a very critical thing for y'all to hear. And it's also, if you're a Christian or a Messianic and you're watching this, you really should really think about this too. Okay. And I'm not trying to hate anybody. I'm just saying something that really happened over and over again. Whenever I made it public, Christians, Messianics both told me that now I'm under a curse from God, that my life is fixing to fall apart, and that all these bad things are going to start happening because I shunned the Son of Man, because I rejected Jesus. So for probably the next week or so at that point, because this was coming in like flood mail, for the next week or so, I was walking around on eggshells. I was expecting all this to happen, but I couldn't break what I knew in my mind. I know for a fact that what I studied is true. Curse or no curse, I'm sorry, I can't go back into worshiping an idol, going into idolatry when I know it's false, even if I do get cursed for it. So if I'm going to be cursed for doing what is right, That's a good thing, right? So I finally just decided not to worry about it. But you know what I started noticing was just the opposite started happening. So if there is really any credibility to the words of all these people who said, you know, you're cursed, you've fallen from grace, you're going to be condemned and all, you know, and all this stuff, what's happening? None of these curses ever came to pass. You know, according to Torah, anybody who says something in the name of the Lord and doesn't do it, he deserves to die. So I mean, you got a lot of people out there really should watch what they say to people, you know, and all this hate that's going through your hearts is just, it's awful. You know, I have a lot of friends right now in my life who are Christian. Most of them are new ones that we met here. In fact, our Hebrew class, for example, we have 4 people who come on Hebrew night, and then 4 or 6 of those will randomly come on Shabbat. And when they found, they knew that we were Messianic right away because the kind of Hebrew roots sort of thing kind of blended into the picture. And so as time went on, now I'm kind of weaving back in and out of time again, okay, because I'm going to start touching back on the topic of how I handled things at home with my wife, and I say my wife particularly because we didn't jump on this bandwagon together, with my wife, with the group, with the people and everything, and how it all came to play. So once I made it publicly known, my wife was concerned, of course, because my wife was raised Catholic, and through her studying the scriptures, or studying the Bible, she came out of that, the Catholicism and into Christianity. And then whenever I left to go in a Messianic movement, she was kind of studying with me. So we kind of made that transition together. But not entirely. It was very dogmatic on my end. I was very pushy. I was very much, this is going to be my way, whether you like it or not. I'm not doing this Christmas tree thing. I'm not doing Easter. It's nonsense. It's not in the Bible. It's pagan. It comes from pagan roots, and God would not have any part with such things. And we fought over that, actually. So even though she understood, she had a hard time letting go of things. So we fought and fought and fought. And I basically forced her. At the end of the day, realistically, it wasn't that she really followed me. I kind of forced her hand to leave the Christian side and actually walk with me through this Messianic path I was on. Hashem had mercy on me, obviously, because as time moved on, she did start doing her own studies, and she started seeing these things that I was showing her as well. And the script and the New Testament was saying about keeping the law and how it is important, and really, and I want to clarify something too. There's a lot of misunderstandings now on how the world views Messianics. Messianics, I've heard many times, more than one occasion, that Messianics and Christians are just alike, but really they're not. They actually only have one major thing in common. The rest of it, they're like night and day. They're really not alike at all. And the one thing that they have in common is the biggest problematic thing of all, and that is the faith in Jesus part, because that's where the idolatry comes in. Everything else, they're different. They don't keep Sunday. They keep Saturday. They don't celebrate Easter and Christmas. They try to keep the feast. They believe in a lot of them actually believe in the Talmud, the direction the Talmud is teaching, and all those points. So they really are like night and day. In fact, their interpretation of the New Testament is entirely different than the Christians are regarding the law. And that's another episode we're going to probably pull off here soon, where we're going to actually get into more detail discussing that. So as time goes on, and here I am in our group, and we've got this small group of people. There was I think at one time we had like 7 or 8 while we were Messianic, and then before I went. I think it was after I went public on Facebook, but I didn't actually tell them what was going on. I just started withdrawing certain prayers from our Saturday service. I started taking all the JC stuff out, all the Yeshua prayers and stuff. I just stopped doing them completely, and I just stuck with the rest of things, like with the Amidah and some other things. And it was after a few short weeks, it was pretty obvious that we were doing that on purpose. And several months had passed, and I finally had to just basically let everybody know where we were at, the journey that we're on. And at the time, I really thought that every one of them would scram, but they didn't. Actually, a couple of them did. 3 of them actually decided that was definitely not their cup of tea, and they completely left altogether. But then we had some that we had already become pretty good friends with, and we trusted them, and they trusted us. I say that's not past tense; we're still friends now, and we are able now still to be a light to them as well. This last week's tour portion was pretty amazing. Where I'm going over with this one nice lady here, how it shows how the tabernacle and all of its utensils and stuff had to be atoned for. And like, well, if atonement really was for sin, for the actions of a human being, then what is all this stuff? I mean, just showing a little misunderstandings of the New Testament understanding of the Old Testament. And so it's opening more conversations. We're meeting new people. People are coming in and randomly calling, wanting to learn Hebrew. And so we've got a few new Hebrew students who have come in. One of them who was kind of Messianic, but he didn't know that's what he was. I had to kind of tell him that's what he was. They were kind of like Messianics who never hooked up with a group in their understanding. And he's now a friend of ours, and he comes over every Thursday, and we talk about this topic quite frequently. In fact, he actually asked to buy a set of Rabbi Tovia Singer's books, and so we got him a set of his books as well. Ran into some other nice people here in town, and it's been a journey for sure. And I will tell you now, testimony wise, that mine and my wife's life now is so much more ease, so much more peace. And I know if you're a Christian, you're not going to understand this, and you really can't understand it just by me telling you. It's something you just have to go through. The peace that passes all understanding is something I thought we had, but now it's unmistakable. There's no returning to where we were. I mean, once you know that pothole is in front of you and you choose to walk through that, then that's your own fault. Again, we're not blind. Our eyes have been opened, and we see these things. And something that I really challenge people out there who are struggling right now with who to believe. So, logic oftentimes will help you through these answers. Sound logic would tell you this: God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. He gave the language of Hebrew belongs to the Jewish people. Why is it that the people who are non-Jewish people try to translate this Bible and then tell them they're blind and they don't understand their own language? It's just, it's something you can believe, because I believe that because I was told to believe it. And the people who told this to me, they loved me. We were all tight family, and I trusted them. But the bottom line, at the end of the day, you're going to have to use your own understanding, your own studies. You got to go in. If you have any question about it whatsoever right now, and you are open-minded, my recommendation for you right now is to put your King James Bible away, period. Go grab a Tanach, an Old Testament, and study it night and day. Don't read it, study it. The Jewish people, they don't read their Bibles, they study their Bibles. And this is something that we too really should be doing. Welcome to Tanach Talk. This is William. David, is this you again, my friend?
Hi.
Yes.
It's William, WILLIAM, at Tenak, TENAK, same one word, TALK?
Yes, sir. WILLIAM at TENAKTALK.com. Yes, sir.
TELK?
No, TENAKTALK. Just like the website. Yep, Tanach Talk.
Is it .com?
Yes, sir. William at TanachTalk.com.
All right. WILLIAM.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
If that doesn't work, send another one to TanachTalk@gmail.
Okay.
They're all
mine from Gmail.
They're all linked together, so that'll get you through.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, David. So there's a lot more details that I wouldn't mind. I don't mind covering. I will tell you that I've seen a lot of things since I've come out of the New Testament thing on the New Testament scene altogether. By the way, you know what? Let me back up just a minute, because this is important. This is important because I didn't really thoroughly answer David's question earlier, and I think it really does serve a great point here. And part of the reason why I'm giving you my testimony is not so you know that I was raised by an abusive guy. It has to do with why I am where I am now. The whole idea of the Passover problem was just the beginning stages of the problems that I found. First of all, to be a Christian, one has to believe, number one, you really have to believe in a virgin birth. A lot of people will say, no, you don't, but no, you do. Because without a virgin birth, you don't have a God man there if it was born by a man and a woman. You have to have a virgin birth. And the virgin birth was clearly very, very, very well completely debunked by the Hebrew scriptures. And most of you already know the details on it, so I'm not going to go there. So without the virgin birth, and then without a Passover sacrifice for sin, there's nothing left. Why even continue on that path? And so that's kind of where it is. We're going to go right back into this right after this call. Caller, thank you for calling in to Tanach Talk. This is William. How can I help you?
Hey, William, this is Mark from Hawaii.
Hey, Mark. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good.
Please share with the audience how you had to play, a courtroom trial in your head where you had to do the whole prosecutor, defense, jury, judge, all of that. It's a great way to practice intellectual integrity.
Sure. You actually did a great job of just in that one sentence. you painted it all out for me right when you said that. That's a good point. Yeah, I sure will. Absolutely. Okay, Mark, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You betcha. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of an interesting point. If you really approach the scriptures that way, you can't just take one side of it, just like in the court system, like he's saying. You have the prosecutor, you have the defender, and the judge, and everything else. You got the jury, the whole 9 yards. Everything that is on a very serious case level, and I think all of you would agree that's our own salvation, our eternal destination, our eternal destiny. It doesn't get any more serious than that. That's it. That's the end goal. And so anytime we read anything, whether it's New Testament, Old Testament, whatever the case may be, and we just take it at its word, so many pictures get painted in my head. That's people scam people on the internet because they take their word for things. There's scams going on all over the place. I saw one today where some people on Craigslist were trying to rent out houses that weren't even for rent just to get their money. And a lot of gullible people just believe it without checking into it. Why is it that we would take our eternal destination, our eternal destiny so lightly that we would just simply take someone's word at it? And the answer is because it sounds good and it works. But I will tell you this is something very important to understand. People tell me, well, I know Jesus exists because my life was changed the moment that I invited him into my heart. I know that too, because I said the same thing. And the best way to explain that, and I mentioned this slightly on an episode a long time ago. I think it was on episode 2 or 3 of Rabbi Singer's. Your Jesus coming into your heart is not what changed you. Your belief of what he can do is what changed you. I'll give you an example. There was a YouTube video I saw one time. It was a prank. It was a prank about a fake lottery ticket. Okay. And on this fake lottery ticket, one of the kids thought it would be kind of funny, and their parents were not wealthy at all. They were just like your typical, middle to lower class citizens as far as financially goes. And so they had this fake lottery ticket. It was just for like $10,000, or it might've been $100,000. I'm not really sure. So here they are, they give their mom this lottery ticket, and they're all sitting there. It's her birthday or something. And she scratches this thing off, and man, she looks at this lottery ticket and she sees that figure on there and that she won. I'm going to tell you something right now, and pay close attention. Her life was immediately changed. And I don't mean mildly, I mean dramatically. And they let that thing go for a while. And for that whole time, until somebody finally told her that it was fake, that entire time frame, that lie, that fake ticket, that thing that didn't even exist, completely changed her life. So you can't tell me that you know for a fact that Jesus is real, or that Jesus is the Son of God because he changed your life, because that doesn't mean anything. I know people who thought the law was looking for them and they weren't, and that changed their life. They went around paranoid for like months on the run, and they found out there was not even a warrant out for their arrest. That changed their life. What you believe in will change you, not the thing that's inside you making the changes. Your brain is designed to function based on belief. That's why people's lives are changed in church. Now, I will say, just for the record, as conversation that me and another friend has had, the church has done many, many good things. Let's not get into all the good, bad verses. I'm talking about good things. I mean, I know that if it wasn't for the church, a lot of the evil people in the world would not be caring people now. I know people who've had terrible past who have changed. They think Jesus changed their life. No, it was their belief in Jesus that changed them. It wasn't Jesus changing their life. Just, you need to understand that. Okay. And so there's a lot of good things that happen from that. And in the Messianic movement, same thing, except the Messianic movement is different in my overall opinion now, more so than ever. But again, they're not like the church. They are totally different than the church, except for the fact that they believe in the same Savior. They'll say they don't. They'll say, no, we don't believe in Jesus. We believe in Yeshua. And, I say that kind of derogatory because it's like, whether you call him Jesus or Yeshua or Yehoshua or whatever you want to call him, it's still the same character of the Bible. It's still the same person that Mary supposedly had as in a virgin birth. It's still the same person that died supposedly on Passover for your sins. Research it. There was no sin sacrifice on Passover. It was on Yom Kippur. In fact, the writers in the New Testament seem to be getting they're confused about it somehow, because it said, "Behold, the Lamb of God that takes away the sins of the world." Well, for all you people who know the story around the Passover story, it's right there with the story of Yom Kippur. What is he talking about? A lamb? Well, it's really not a lamb; it's a goat. But what is he talking about? The lamb that takes away the sin. He's talking about the scapegoat. That didn't happen on Passover. That was on Yom Kippur, and that was for sin. This wasn't for sin. I've been told hundreds of times that Jesus is all throughout the Old Testament, but you know what? I've been looking and I can't find him anywhere. I can find similarities, but I can also find similarities to Buddha in there. I can find similarities to Hare Krishna, the way they describe things. So just because there's similarities doesn't mean anything. What matters is, what does the Hebrew scriptures tell you to believe? What is the proof that Hashem left behind, saying that when this time comes, this is what's supposed to be happening? So why didn't these things happen when Jesus came? It's because he wasn't the Messiah. That's what led us to where we're at today. How are we moving forward now? Now, we basically, my wife and I have been talking about the possibilities of conversion. We want to convert to Judaism. We're in a situation right now where we can't because we're geographically challenged, as well as other things. We have other issues that we're dealing with. We canceled our Shabbat services. I tried to cancel them altogether, but by request, we were requested to leave at least one weekend open. So we do. We meet on the first Saturday of each month now, and I've got a Torah scroll that we read from. We still say the Hebrew prayers, but really just the ones that I know that are more appropriate for our setting. And we're at that point where we just want to keep learning about Hashem. We want to keep studying the Torah and the prophets, and we want to live the best we can in the moment that we're in. And don't feel awkward because I said we want to convert. I mean, you don't. And this is a message that needs to be clear too. You don't have to convert to Judaism to be in an upright relationship with Hashem. If y'all been watching any of the episodes with Rabbi Skovak or Rabbi Tovia Singer, or even David Katz. Ira Michelson had a really good exposition on this. There's no requirement for you to convert to Judaism. God, will take you just like you are. So there's no need for that. So you don't hold them. So there's no need for that. Just if you want to, that's one thing, then do it. But if you feel compelled to, do it. But you don't have to. Hello, caller. This is William. Thank you for calling the Tanach Talk.
Yeah. Hello, Will. I'm calling, to thank you for just telling us about the process, because a lot of us, went through the same process, and the response from the Messianic and some Christian is like they get aggressive, kind of aggressive or something, and they try to intimidate.
Right.
And I was talking to my wife about that, and it became clearly to us something about the teaching of the Roman Catholic, that they have a doctrine that they say that Jews are gonna see the Antichrist in the seat of Jesus,
Right. Wow.
So how does that gonna happen? They trying to brainwash people. I think that's the brainwash people. So in the day that the real Messiah comes, everybody's gonna, even the Christian, because a lot of Christians love Israel.
Right.
But I think they're gonna. That's the way they're gonna turn back. Just like when one of us just rejects the teaching,
right,
of JC, they all turn back. Try to be aggressive, and it takes bravery to do this. Thank you for the job you're doing, and hopefully people will start listening to the Torah and follow Hashem.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you for the job. Okay.
Hey,
thank you for the job, and thank you to Rabbi Tovia Singer also.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hashem bless you and your family.
You as well, my friend. Thank you for calling. Shalom.
Thank you.
Somebody asked me on Facebook. I sent a message yesterday or this morning, and asked why is it that the Jews don't believe in Revelation, and it got into discussion about how it kind of ties in with the idealistic things that go on with in Daniel and some of the stories you hear in the Old Testament. And the bottom line is that anything in the New Testament, everything in the New Testament, really has to be taken with extreme care, because you have the situation. Oh, sorry, I had to put up this other picture. I was going to put up this other picture that I'm looking at right now, but I figured it might have just shocked everybody. I better wait. But at the end of the day, I was amazed, actually, whenever I found this out. I was so taught along the path that the Jewish people are so that they just so are overwhelmed with Christianity, and that they really despise and they really look down on, and they look on other people of the world and all this other stuff. And then whenever I kind of came into where we're at now, and I began to be around more people, I'm finding out they don't trouble themselves with it at all. They got their own life to live. They're concerned with keeping Torah and studying. And did I mention studying? I mean, we as a Christian, I read my Bible probably more than anybody that I know. I mean, literally cover to cover, mainly the Torah, and in and out of the prophets. The New Testament I probably read 20, 30 times. The Old Testament, same thing. The whole Torah aspect, man, I studied it, and for about 2 or 3 years, listened to every possible lecture that they had on Chabad.org on the Torah portions, usually about 7 to 14 a week. And so immersing myself in it, and it's like they don't concern themselves with that. It's not like what I was taught, and it's like they really have a despise the Jew attitude when it comes to teaching in their messages, And like I said, just because they say they're pro-Israel, that doesn't mean they're pro-Judaism. They're just the land of Israel is what they're referring to. And it's like, what do you do? Oh yeah, check this out. This is funny. Oftentimes people ask me all the time, well, being raised up in an abusive household, how did I handle, how did I not turn out being mean and abusive myself? I think, look at it, pictures like this crack me up. It's one of those things where, it has to be credited to Hashem. He's definitely, he's definitely given me a spirit of peace, and that I've had for a long time, as long as I can remember. There was a bit of a period in my young adult life where I got a little hot-headed, but ultimately I've really enjoyed life. I was afraid to have children because I was abused growing up, and I finally decided to bite the bullet. And that's whenever we had my oldest son, Brandon, and it wasn't anything like I thought. It's like I just knew I was going to do everything different than what my stepdad did, and logic, heart, feeling, everything. I just approached it differently. And this is without any insight from the church or anything. And it turned out, very, very acceptable. I learned a lot, made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I was never an abusive person. Even now with my kids, that smile is just, man, it's amazing. We always also had a goofy side to me, which drew out the goofy side in my other children as well. Like this picture with Jessica. She's such a doll. I can't remember, we got this shirt from somewhere, but it totally spurred her. She went in there and got all dressed up. Want to take a picture. And then of course, shortly after, these types of things show up, with me wearing a blonde wig, doing the whole peace scene. Hey, so here's the deal. You're probably never going to see me without a beard. That's the closest you're going to get, or is right there. So, but anyway, make a long story short, getting through it all, it really is a mindset, and you really just got to push forward. God put eyes in the back of, and not on the back of our head, but in the front of our head. My brother told me that a long time ago, and it stuck. And yeah, cute picture, huh? Me and my son was goofing off on the green screen before. I'm gonna leave it here for a while. So anyway, I don't want to keep rambling on over nothing, but just as a overall recap, we didn't leave Christianity and Messianic Judaism because we were blind. I left the scene because of my studies led me there. And it's really not fair to tell someone that they're blind when they study more than you do, when they've done the research and you haven't, and you're just coming up with answers. I had a lady, I won't mention her name. She came, this was like the last time she had come to our group, to the Beit HaMitzvot. And, they were bringing up something this was on a Sabbath day, and they were bringing up a topic, a Messianic topic. And I tried to steer it away because I knew they already knew where we stood. And at the time, I wasn't really prepared to go there. And so, but she brought this up anyway. And then, so finally I said, well, do you want me to respond? I said, because I said, if you're open-minded about it, I will. And she goes, oh, I'm open-minded about it. She goes, I've heard all of the claims. And I said, which one are you talking about? She said, just like Psalm 22. And I'm like, she hasn't heard anything. The moment I started explaining it to her, she like clammed up and her eyes got big as rocks, and just, they haven't heard anything. They're literally trained. I had a friend of mine, Michael Navarro, who was Messianic with my dad's synagogue for a long time. And he had the same approach. He says, man, I've heard it all. He goes, William, he says, you've got to go here, and you've got to look at this chapter in Isaiah and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? I'm open-minded. Show me a video. So he sent me a video link, and I've already seen this video. I've seen the information in it. But you know what he told me? You're closed-minded. How is it that a person is closed-minded just because when they learn 2 + 2 is 4 and somebody wants to keep telling you over and over again, they don't want to hear it anymore? They're not closed-minded. They already know that story. Today, as I sit here before you, I am still open-minded. If any Christian out there will present me something new that I haven't seen before, that I haven't already studied out, something I've never heard before, I will review it. I'll watch a video on it, but I'm going to respond to it also. But don't call me blind when I'm done, because, again, I've seen this stuff before. Most of the people you deal with, most of the Messianic people, ex-Messianics, ex-Christians who are here with me today in this journey, who's watching here now, they've been here before. They've seen this stuff. They studied this out. They didn't get here because they just decided to be rebellious. They didn't do that. Their goal is to get closer to Hashem, not further away. And so for a person to really just unleash a wrath of anger and fury on them, all for the sake of Jesus's name, I'm sorry, but that's just, man, I'm glad I'm out of that movement. I will tell you this, with this Sandy Bruce, I sent him a message several months ago because I learned something new that I never saw it before. But it says Jesus was talking. It's in your red letter print. And it says that for any man who will not come and serve me, he says, bring him before me and slay him before me. Now, granted, that was given as a kind of metaphorically spoken, but the concept of it is still legitimate. So I took that scripture and that reference, and I called him back. I either called and left a message, or I sent him a Facebook message. I can't remember. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry. What you did in my house threatened me and my wife. I said, technically, you were just following the New Testament. My hat's off to you. So I'm no longer disturbed by that incident. I am disturbed by the New Testament altogether. I will tell you this right now. So, well, I think we pretty much covered everything. I had cleared a 2-hour window, but there's a lot of things, like I said, that I just I kind of opted out on because I didn't really think it was imperative to attach to my testimony. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or call. Also know for future references, everybody out there, if you guys want to give your testimony, there's people out there who want to hear it, and you need to call in, and we'll put you on Skype, or if you're local, you can come stop by. Anyway, so hey, there's one more thing I want to just share with you just real quickly, and I want to thank a dear friend of mine. I don't have his picture up here, I don't think. But anyway, I want to thank a dear friend of mine, Travis Wirtz, and also my brother in arms, Pete Lamoureux, for all the work they've done for Tanach Talk. This whole broadcasting thing is a testimony all on itself, and maybe we'll discuss it some other time. But I really want to thank these guys, because if it wasn't for their hand in this, we would not be this far along. And so I want to thank you guys both. Love you guys. And if I'm forgetting to mention your name, Justin came on board. Justin Karp came on, and he's been helping us with the hardware situations we've been going. He's the one who got us our new computer. Went shopping for it, built it, and he's been working with me on times whenever I'm working alone. So thank you, Justin, as well. And but if I'm forgetting your name, please don't have your feelings hurt. Come see me. We'll sit down and talk. We'll do a show together, and it'll be fun. So people, until next time. Which again, our Tuesday testimonies, the next one we have is actually going to be on Sunday also, but that's not going to be the day that we choose for the testimonials. That's always going to be on Tuesdays. Okay. But this particular weekend, my friend Lon is going to be down, and I'm going to have him. I'm going to do an in-house interview with him. You'll see both of us on the main screen, and you'll be able to call in with questions if you have any there. And then after that point, we're going to mainly start having them on Tuesdays at that point. But I've got Rabbi Stuart Federer lined up to come in. Will be an in-house interview. Rod Bryant will be here in-house as well. And then we're going to have some repeat shows with Rabbi David Katz. Still working on getting a setup with Chaim Kaufman. I actually dropped the ball on that. So Rabbi Chaim, if you're listening to this, forgive me. I'm going to get on that and get you on the schedule right away. So we'll look forward to seeing you guys and talking to you soon. And so we'll see you Wednesday. Rabbi Michael Skovak will be here as usual. So until that time, y'all have a blessed day, and talk to you soon. Shalom.